I was an engineer and in 2008 lost my job due to the economic collapse. Jobs were scarce. I didn't know where to turn to get help updating my resume. Online services and coaches charge hundreds, even thousands of dollars. I took matters into my own hands and learned how to craft interview-winning resumes. Shortly later, I landed a job with a Fortune 500 company. I have helped many achieve similar success. Now I share my tips to create interview-winning resumes, interviewing excellence, and high-performance growth strategies on my podcast, Career Growth Made Easy. Welcome back to the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. I'm your host, Craig Ancel. You're joining us for part 2 of Creating the Masterclasses with Madison Ancel. We're into episode 108. If you haven't heard part 1, tune into 107 first. Now, please join me for the conclusion. You know, I'm kind of laughing about that. We just talked about instant deal breakers, and one of the most common mistakes was the 77% typos or bad grammar. But I came across a recruiter as part of my work with coaching and mentoring, and it really shocked me with what I'm about to share with you. He said, if I see, quote, to whom it may concern, end quote, it shows me you didn't do your research and implies you're lazy.
Yikes.
And this was an in-person meeting, so I was kind of just shocked and just stared for a while. And he went on, I think it was over lunch. He just went on to, have a drink. And I was like, wow, what was common, what was acceptable in the past, maybe the distant past, to whom it may concern, isn't today, or at least with this recruiter. Now, truth be told, I don't know how many potential resumes or cover letters this recruiter has seen or will be seeing in the future.
Right.
But you can be sure, being genuine, if he saw to whom it may concern, it just tells me you're lazy. And basically, he went on to say, you're not getting a second chance with me.
You know, it was considered the norm because it was like it all a blanket term, it covers your bases. You're not going to be offending anyone or putting in the wrong name, God forbid, because you're not putting in a name. But in today's age where information is available within 5 seconds of like a Hey Siri or, okay, Google type of thing, it makes sense because it shows if you're not going to put in that little bit of effort, those 5 minutes maybe of looking for a name when you're applying to a job, how much effort and how detail oriented can you really be for the job that you're applying for? It could be considered a really quick sign to see, all right, are we on the right foot or am I just going to throw this in the trash? Kind of like he said, it just shows you're lazy. So it helps them to say, oh, this just says to whom may concern. All right, I'm just going to discard it because they didn't attempt to do any research. And it's harsh, but it's a piece of advice that we now know, right?
It is. And again, this is from the lens of one said recruiter. And so we know if your cover letter had gone through this person and it was having that statement, that intro, right, you're not going to get a second look. They're not going to read the body of your content. As I was talking earlier about the resume masterclass, you could be the absolute best candidate, the best person for the interview, for the job, hands down. But if your resume doesn't portray your values and what you can bring to the table to that hiring company, you may not get that interview. The cover letter, if there are some signs, bad grammar, typos, and a number of other things, those can be problematic. And so today's day and age, to your point, it's rather easy. It can be quick. And I don't know, 5 seconds, that's what you said, completely possible. But at least within a few moments, a few minutes, to find a connection at a company before you submit your cover letter. So when it does go through the recruiting chains and people review it, it's okay if you picked somebody along the interviewing process and you don't actually interview with that person. At least I feel, at least you went through the effort to put a name down and see someone that genuinely worked within that company or that organization that might touch your cover letter and resume. And
it shows the effort was there.
Yeah, I was exactly what I was going to say. It shows the effort or it implies value. It's not another generic document. To whom it may concern, I'm applying for this job because I need to work and I need money, right? We're not going to write that. We know that you've taken the time to write the cover letter. You're interested in the job. Presumably, you've sent along a focused targeted resume for our specific job opening, so you're talking to us, the value that you bring to our organization, I almost can feel like reading your cover letter and reviewing quickly your resume. The recruiter, the hiring manager might almost feel a sense of connection, as if they could envision you starting to work there.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually coaching someone recently, and I started explaining to them about one of the modules in the resume masterclass. And voice got a little froggy there. One of my modules in the resume masterclass, and it was about targeting your job. And what that means is that you're not just handing out and cranking out multiple resumes of the same generic format. When you go and you apply for job number one, you're going to focus and use, as you mentioned earlier, Madison, something about the mission statement, the vision statement. You're going to connect with them on a genuine level.
Mm-hmm.
When you apply for job number 2, 3, 4, etc., you might want to modify your resume. In fact, I strongly suggest it so it's not generic and it just doesn't apply. Let's say if you're going into the restaurant chain or fast food, you don't want to hand out the same resume. You might want to connect with each individual company, something specific about them. And that's a way to get them to feel a connection with you. Mm-hmm. Where I was going with this, and I got segued, was that in working with this other student during coaching, I got them excited about this targeting a job. And she said, I actually can feel as if I'm employed at this company, even though I haven't even submitted my resume yet. And like, that's exactly what we're looking for. Mm-hmm. Once you study the company and you do your homework and you feel like you understand them, does the particular position you're applying for, do they believe more in culture? Do they believe more in heritage, maybe more in nature? Do they like to help out in the environment? Do they do certain volunteer activities? I think you brought up volunteering, right, before. Mm-hmm. Do they do volunteering in the community? If that connects with you on some level, I used to volunteer, or, oh, hey, I was a student teacher at, or I have a really great ability to make, food for the homeless. I'm a really good cook. I'm really good at making a certain type of super sandwich. And, in fact, it's low cost because when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot. And so we had to make do with what we had. While you could think of these things as weaknesses, they can become your greatest strength and value, connecting through a cover letter, connecting through a resume, through volunteering efforts. And that's when she felt a connection. She said, wow, I can actually see myself working at that company. And in fact, we were actually making up companies just to try to show her how to target a job and how to connect. And the light bulb went off. This was all within, I think, an hour coaching session. And the light bulb went off over her head. And when I started to see her smile, knowing where this person was, she was sitting there with one job. She usually had two to cover her full-time work. And she was in a pretty difficult situation personally. To see a light bulb go off in someone's head, they've now got it. They're now connected. They can carry forward the mission of the Resume Masterclass.
You can think of sorry, go ahead.
No, it was just so fulfilling. That's all.
It's like, you don't want to think about, I'm already imagining working there. It's not necessarily jumping the gun. What it does do is it helps you get comfortable. When you mentally prepare yourself with the mindset that I can actually see myself working here, I can really do this. If you're lucky enough to get that interview, that energy is really going to come in handy when you sit down to speak with them, because ideally you would find yourself thinking, this is normal. This is natural. I can do this because I'm excited to work here, because I want to work here and I can see it happening. And that will carry over and carry through in the way you present yourself in that interview. So that kind of energy is really good to have, because you don't want to get the interview and then walk in and be like, oh my gosh, I never thought of this far ahead. I didn't think I could actually accomplish this. And I don't even know, like that. They'll be able to read that. So when you think about it and you target the job this way, it really benefits you in the long run. And it may seem like a little bit of extra work here and there to hand tailor your resume for each job. I know I felt this way. I was very not on board with the idea when you first introduced it to me as my dad and as your kid, because I was like, come on, I just spent so much time on this resume and it's not that old. And now I have to change it up. It's not, it's doing you a favor, and this is just a very silly, simple way to think about it. But think of a very generic, present, let's say a candle or something, or a teddy bear. You could give that to your friend and they'll be like, thank you. It's not a horrible gift, but they never once said they liked candles or teddy bears. You've never talked about it. Why would they think that you had them in mind when you gave them the gift? They're not going to say, I don't like this, but they're not going to feel a connection with you. They're not going to feel like, wow, you really put me first. You really thought about this gift, and I can tell how much effort you put into it. It's the same exact thing, right? You have to put the effort into each job you're applying for with only them in mind. And that will shine through in the way you write it and the way you structure your resume and your cover letter. And that's going to be what sets you apart from anyone else just coming to give them like a candle or a teddy bear, you know?
Well, and I have to laugh. First of all, thank you for a segue into the real world of gift giving. Right. But at the same point in time, what if we have a listener out there that says, "Hey, Madison, hey, Craig, I'm offended. I give candles or teddy bears." But hold on a minute. This is not to defend you, but it's to support your idea. On the counterpoint to your statements about just randomly saying candle and teddy bear, right? Mm-hmm. We have friends and family that thoroughly love candles. In fact, if you get a certain shaped candle, could be in a form of artwork, with the blown glass. It could be also a scented candle, such as, gardenias or flowers or something like that. And now they make so many things that smell like trees and rain and bark and maple and whatever. The point is that if you relate that connection to someone that would be hiring, and you wanted to connect with them on the candle concept, you would then want to talk about what they do. If they're a candle manufacturer, for example.
I'm saying if you give a candle to someone who really likes candles, they're going to love it. If you give a gift to someone who is just a regular person and is like, oh, thanks, a candle, the reaction that you get is going to be different. The person who knows you had them in mind when buying the candle is going to feel seen and put first and targeted, so to say. You had them in mind. You bought this gift specifically for them. It's the thought that counts, and you did the extra effort. Any old person's going to be like, thanks. Candles are nice. I don't hate them, but I don't feel like you really thought about me, because when have I ever said I love candles? That was the idea, to put it in a different perspective.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm smiling. We're having fun with this. And as we talked about, even with resumes and interviews, it's good to be personal. It's good to reach from inside. So I love that you connected that with something, tangible.
Right. Back to the cover letter masterclass.
Oh, yeah. The cover letter masterclass. And then there's this resume masterclass thing. Yeah. So one of the things that I had learned about with working on the cover letter masterclass, we had mentioned the mid 50s, talking about one of the first times cover letters were used. Surprisingly, after further research, there was even a much, much earlier time. In fact, 20 years earlier, in December of 1936, yet in another famous paper, the Wall Street Journal. And it talked about this statement: certain factual information is vital, I'll say, AKA your resume. Yet equally important is some insight into what is in the minds of those applying. So we've got the check mark for the resume, but what's equally important, get that, is some insight into what is in the minds of those applying. Saying it differently, it's like before, Madison, with the New York Times, right? They want to know your interest for the job. Why you? Why us? What do you think about that?
I think it speaks to the acronym of WIFM that we speak about all the time in podcast episodes and in both master classes, the what's in it for me. I think the resume, you can only tailor what you've done so much. You can't lie about the positions that you've had. So maybe there may be some jobs you've held that you can't directly connect to the job you're applying for today. But the cover letter, you are constructing that in real time, and you have every decision to make when it comes to how you are presenting that information. So with that job in mind, you can think, this is how I'm going to say I did this job. This is how I'm going to convey this value of mine, because I know it directly connects to this job. And it's an insight into my mind that I know they'll appreciate based on their mission statement, their values, their website, their slogan, something like that. You have a lot more creative license when it comes to a cover letter, because you're writing that up today, whereas your resume, you're writing it and you're making adjustments to it, but you can't change the jobs you've had. What you can change is how you explain the jobs that you had, and that's what a cover letter can really help you with.
I like that a lot. Yeah. In fact, we talked earlier about targeting jobs, and I think you mentioned very early on in the episode about, oh man, I have to do more than one resume. Well, it's recommended, right? At least from
Right.
dad, from Coach Dad, right? But the thing about it, I'll pull a number out, 80-90% of your existing resume, once you go through either the resume class or you get coaching through me or elsewhere, 80 to 90% of your resume probably will stand. It's that 10, 15, 20%, that extra push that you personalize and connect with, to your points. And in talking about the cover letter, absolutely, you use the phrase, I believe, writing in real time. You're targeting jobs, and it's your time to connect and shine. And I just, in fact, pulled up our course just to look at it. It's online on our website, craigancel.com. And I remember saying this: a strong cover letter gets your resume in the right hands. So a cover letter's job primarily is to introduce your resume and introduce you to the hiring company.
Mm-hmm.
The breakdown, as you're well aware, for us, we used 4 main paragraphs. It was the introductory paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you need to grab their attention right out of the gate. If you don't grab the hiring company's attention, you've lost them right out of the get-go. We've already talked about, we read on resumes, top down, left to right. So vital, critical information right from the top. The cover letter has to be clean, it has to be value packed, and it has to be clear and concise. And again, less is more. We talked about that earlier. We then flow into qualifications paragraphs showing that you're an excellent choice for that position. Again, connecting with the company. You can state in another paragraph your values and goals. That's where part of what your resume does is showcases your achievements, but it highlights specific characteristics about you and traits, like you mentioned earlier, Madison, about when you're interviewing. Tell me about yourself, right? How can you connect with that hiring company? They want to know more about you. When I mentioned I talked to that human resource professional and they had difficulty with people answering, tell me about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You can use the cover letter in this way. Then in the 4th paragraph, we call it the CTA, or the call to action, you're familiar with. And you want to have a strong ending. You don't want to be watered down and just thank you so much for your time and kind of just sign off and zzz,
The basic
right?
equivalent of to whom it may concern would be like, thank you for your time. It's like, that's a given. You have to punch it up a bit.
Exactly. And where we're going with that, the CTA, the closing paragraph, the call to action, you are wanting to mentally connect with them. Besides, yes, thanking them for their time or whatever it is they've done for you. Thank you for viewing my cover letter. Thank you for considering my resume. You want to mentally connect with them and move on to the next phase. And what is that? Either reviewing your resume or ultimately getting you in for the interview.
And can we just say, I don't know if everybody understands that not only are we telling you and teaching you how to write these paragraphs, we're explaining, like, you have defined the purpose of each paragraph. And that is something I don't think the value cannot be overstated. You are probably thinking, as somebody who doesn't know much about cover letters, I need to sit down and write a couple paragraphs about why I think I'm great for this job. This will break down the absolute core of each paragraph, and they each deliver a specific goal, and they will each be written with a different intent. The introduction paragraph, the qualifications paragraph, the values and goals paragraph, and the call to action paragraph. I don't think people can even understood each paragraph had a different purpose. It was more so just a letter that you're writing to them. Thinking of that and having that mindset and that structure set up for you, it does wonders for you not to repeat yourself, not to find yourself expressing redundant thoughts or just listing your soft skills in 1 paragraph, 2 paragraph, 3 paragraph. It's a bit weak to do something like that. Giving each paragraph its own specific identity and its own cause and effect for how the recruiter is supposed to take that information and how it's supposed to continue to build value upon value. It's so, like, I could never have imagined this information would be so readily available. I never found information like this out on the internet. I don't think they ever defined the paragraphs. And if they did, I've never found any service that did it this well. I went to you when I needed help with my cover letter. I did some looking online, but I never found anything explained so specifically, outlined everything so well to the point where I understood each paragraph had its own purpose. And it's just like, I don't see how you can't see the value in that. It's so wonderful. It's so beneficial. And it really helps you step your game up, because it's not just here's how you write a letter. It's here's how you write each paragraph with purpose and with intent, you know?
Now, I appreciate that. You're someone that has gone through the course, used it, as well as you've helped me construct the framework around it, help me record it, and so forth, and do the graphics for it, so that we keep our students' attention and change up the visual appeal. So I want to thank you very much for the value that you've added to the course content and how it's visually portrayed, but also to your feedback. Yes, you're my daughter. However, you still went through the course. And you started, I believe, with a blank sheet of paper. First of all, maybe what is a cover letter, or how do you write one, right? And the cool part about these 4 paragraphs I mentioned, which again, the information's on our website, should you be interested. The cool part about it, I actually deconstruct each paragraph and help you build sentence by sentence. It'll be shocking for some to know, and I think you can attest to this, but some of these paragraphs, the word paragraph can be daunting. Oh my God, I'm writing paragraphs and sentences and pages and pages. Nope. We're going to shoot for 1-page cover letter, shoot for 4 paragraphs, the structure we talked about. And some of these paragraphs may be 2, 3, or 4 sentences. That's it. We're using the phrases we used earlier with the resume masterclass discussion. Less is more. With him, WIIFM, what's in it for me? And another one that's out there, KISS, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Now, to be clear, I'm not calling you Madison stupid, nor any of our listeners. It's just an old acronym out there, an old phrase, keep it simple. And they added the S for KISS, keep it simple, stupid. It's just something to remember.
If the cover letter masterclass is the value that you get from it for the price you get, where you are taught how to write each sentence, I just think I could not have imagined writing a cover letter without the aid of the cover letter masterclass. And the value can't be understated, because it helped me so much. And I can't think of many other resources out there that help you build paragraphs sentence by sentence.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it was a joy to write the class, but it was also a great learning experience for me. I knew full-heartedly what the goal of the cover letter was. As we talked about earlier, it's either going to be read first by many, or it's going to be a compliment if the resume is written first, right? To complement the resume and see if there's a true connection, as we said. But if one thing I wanted to say though about the KISS, the keep it simple, stupid comment, both for your resume and for your cover letter, it is my strong suggestion that if you're in the middle of working on either, whether first-time creation or editing for updates, rewrites, rebirth because you've changed industries or careers, something that I went through as well and successfully navigated the waters from engineering into project management. The KISS concept, keep it simple. If you feel like you're just writing words to fill paper, if you actually get confused when you're filling out your own resume or updating it, if you get confused writing your cover letter, what is it I'm trying to say? And you read that sentence or that paragraph over and over and you feel a disconnect, I do feel that's what your heart is telling you. The true guidance is internal. If you don't feel you can get the message out of your body, out of your mind, out of your heart and soul onto paper, it's really not going to do well for the person reading and that potential recruiter, hiring manager, et cetera. So sometimes less is more. Strike a few lines that you don't feel connected with, or, put them to the side on a second sheet of paper and use them as the parking lot, I call it. You can grab from the parking lot and pull other vehicles, other information out of that second sheet. But when you're done, that first single pager, that 1 page, is going to be what is your key content for the cover letter or resume, for example. And you can always pull from other sources, to your point. What did you do when you volunteered? Do you have any volunteering experience, any clubs, any sports activities, anything where maybe you were a team lead or most valuable player? Anything like that that's unique, special, that identifies you, connects with you specifically, that's what you could potentially use to help you stand out from the crowd when you're applying for these positions.
I know I've gotten a bit passionate about some of the value that you can get from these classes, but I stand by it. I'm biased maybe because I'm your child and I was also a part of the process, but as somebody who knows the class inside and out better than almost anybody, excluding you, I think the combination of the resume masterclass and cover letter masterclass are such a powerhouse duo. And the fact that the content in there has been constructed over the years and is still relevant and accurate to this day just speaks to its longevity. You know, how you can buy this for a one-time purchase, and you can have it forever, and it can continue to help you rebuild and redesign any resume or continue to construct a brand new cover letter each time. It's not going to go stale. I don't believe that the content is so flimsy that in 10 years it'll need to be redone. I believe that this is at the core of what the purpose of writing a resume is, and building your cover letter sentence by sentence. You will not get a better experience than this, because it can help you for the rest of your life as long as you're intending to work. I think this can really help you achieve far more than you could have on your own. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out and getting help from resources, because everyone needs a shoulder to lean on. Everyone needs a bit of a boost. And that's what people like you are out there doing, trying to support and help their friends and their peers and people in their community by lifting them up and allowing them to achieve that career growth that is just out of reach. All you need is a bit of a boost, and I think that's what these episodes of Career Growth Made Easy and the teachings of the resume and cover letter masterclass are here for. It's an undeniable benefit to people to invest in themselves and to get these kinds of master classes that are really going to take what they thought they knew about resumes and cover letters and just take it to a total next level.
No, I appreciate your passion for it. And yes, I know we're both intimately connected to these courses, and rightly so. When you work with someone, whether it's myself or listening to the free podcast, Career Growth Made Easy, that we're on now, or if you work with someone else, a resume service or a resume coach, my biggest ask is for each listener, wherever you go for help or guidance, make sure that they do it with the heart of a teacher, someone that has a passion, a focus, and intent on helping you, and that they're in it for the right reasons. If it's just, as you said earlier, Madison, just to get a job, just to collect a paycheck, it's not going to work. You're going to see through them. Make sure they have a heart, a passion for what they do. And when you say, hey, I'm really interested in, and then you name the career area that you're interested in, whether it's engineering, manufacturing, restaurants, customer service. I mean, there's a host of things you can name, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you name that, if they roll their eyes, if they seem disinterested or lose focus, maybe that's not the right person or the right service to work with, because you want them there for you, whether it's a volunteering situation you're in and you're receiving free guidance or counseling or coaching, or it's paid. You want to get the best you can. Now, with that said, I know writing a resume can be daunting. I've been there and done that. In fact, years ago, as part of my in episode 1, I talked about the introduction to who I am and how I became. And I lost my job after nearly 12 years of dedicated service to a company. I never made it to my 12-year anniversary, never made it. What happened, though, as you're well aware, Madison, and I'll share with the listeners, after I was let go, I didn't know if I had a resume. If I did, would I be able to find it? When was the last time it was updated? So I went through some struggles, and to leave a long story short, I looked everywhere, and I wasn't sure who I could trust or what services I could use or what I could afford not having a job. I took matters into my own hands, and as part of learning hundreds and hundreds of hours in self-study and talking to experts, I then constructed my own resume, which got me into the job that I'm in today, a Fortune 500 company position. And I just celebrated 13-year anniversary, and I'm very proud of that as a project manager. With that said as well, I've been mentoring people for years and coaching now for several. I know how daunting a resume can be, whether you're putting your first together with a blank sheet of paper or updating it, or again, totally redesigning it for a career or transition in your life because the industry has downsized. In my case, what happened in 2008, and jobs weren't readily available. Sales weren't there, so they didn't need employees as much. Or if you're changing career paths because you gained an extra education, or you found you really weren't in the area of passion that you truly wanted to be.
So to wrap up, I believe the value of the resume masterclass and cover letter masterclass cannot be understated. If you want to read up on all of the value that you'll get from the modules listed in the classes, you can head to craigancel.com/RMC or craigancel.com/CLMC to view. And we actually have a sale going on right now. Don't know if we've mentioned that yet, but you can get both the resume masterclass and the cover letter masterclass as a bundle for 25% off. We want to give you guys this gift so you can take this time during the summer to really reinvent yourselves. Whether you're looking to apply for a job now or not, I guarantee you that the amount of value you'll get from having this and these tools in your pocket, it can't be stated. If you'd want to listen again to hear all about it, go ahead. But visit our website to check out more. And if you ever have any questions about the Resume Masterclass, or you're looking to get even more content, more time with Craig, feel free to email us at info@craigancel.com, or just, shoot us a DM on social media. We're on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Craig Ancel. We are always happy and ready to listen to any kind of questions or thoughts you guys may have. We love hearing from you. So thank you for interacting with us on social media. A big inspiration for why we do this is so that we can help people just like you.
I appreciate that. And a lot of what you mentioned, Madison, is about the social media. Through you, because of you, I'm able to connect in the way that I am, with the graphics and with the great content. So thank you for help with your mad digital management skills on my website. Thank you for your help with the social media. And I truly believe in our mission. I even heard the passion in your voice, as well as we constructed these two classes together and went through a lot of learnings. And I still think there's more to talk about, but we'll see if the listeners would like to hear more in a future episode. Teaser. But again, thank you so much, Madison, for being on, supporting my company and Career Growth Made Easy podcast as my digital manager. I cannot understate your value. So it's I
appreciate it. I very wholeheartedly believe in what you do, and I'm happy to see the impact that you have on people and how you can change people's lives by helping them find a job, because that is where their livelihood lies. And so it's really important to make sure that you get the help you need when looking for a job. And I know that you do it with integrity and you do it with honesty. And just from all the people that you've helped in the past and those who will continue to help, we're excited for all the opportunities and possibilities. And so I think the Resume Masterclass and Cover Letter Masterclass are a great place to start, because that's really, as far as I'm concerned, the end all be all for advice and for help on building, rebuilding, or, just tweaking your resume or your cover letter.
Oh, yeah. The tweaking part, maybe just a career transition. That's a major transition, right? A major overhaul. But all these things are possible. And besides the fact it's just a piece of paper, okay, that paper represents you, your passions, your desires. But when you go through classes like mine, you realize you can repurpose yourself and you can repurpose your career and rebuild your career. So I've done that. Others have done that. And you too can do that if you're in a difficult situation. Madison, you've already mentioned some of our our social media connections at Craig Ancel. That's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We have info@craigancel.com for my email. Please feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to help any of you out there, any listeners that are struggling. Please share a note with me. That's what we're here for. We want to help. And finally, again, thank you to all our valuable listeners. I appreciate each and every one of you for being on. We're now into 100+ episode sessions, occasionally having guests on. We'd love to hear from you about any specific episodes that you liked, any content that you're interested in the future that maybe we could consider having on as a potential guest, or any discussion points we might want to raise. And just overall, thank you so much as we're going on to approaching 3 years for the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. I kind of just paused for a moment to think how long it's been, but COVID's done a number on everybody, and just we've powered through, we've struggled through it together, both as Career Growth Made Easy podcast host and as a business, but also with you listening and sending in your comments and your notes. So we're there for you. You've been there for us. I want to thank you again, Madison, my daughter, Madison Ancel, my digital manager. Thank you for being on one last time.
Very happy to be here. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. And as your host, Craig Ancel, we are closing another episode of the Career Growth Made Easy podcast. This was our episode on the Resume Masterclass and Cover Letter Masterclass behind the scenes. God bless everyone. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel. New episodes every Monday. In the meantime, why don't you follow us on social media at Craig Ancel on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. To book a coaching appointment, download our free guides, or join our email list, check out the links in the description below.